रेस्पिरेशन हा टॉपिक आता आपण पूर्ण टीच करून संपवला. आता तो तुम्ही लर्न करणारच आहात. त्याच्यावरती आधारित MCQज आपण पूर्वीही काही सॉल्व केलेले आहेत. उदाहरणार्थ पहिलं जे युनिट आहे गॅशियस एक्सचेंज इन ॲनिमल्स आणि प्लांट्स, त्याच्यावरचे काही, आणि ह्युमन रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टीम या सब युनिटवरती काही प्रश्न आपण सॉल्व केलेले आहेत. त्याचे व्हिडिओज मी तुम्हाला सेंड केलेले आहेत. आता आपल्याला उर्वरित जो भाग आहे तो उर्वरित भाग म्हणजे मेकॅनिझम ऑफ रेस्पिरेशनमध्ये ब्रिदिंग असेल, इंटरनल एक्सटर्नल रेस्पिरेशन असेल किंवा सेल्युलर रेस्पिरेशन, म्हणजे थोडक्यात गॅशियस एक्सचेंज जो आहे त्या गॅशियस एक्सचेंजवरचे काही क्वेश्चन्स आत्ता आपण सॉल्विंगला घेतो आहोत. आणि त्या प्रश्नांची PDF मी तुम्हाला पाठवलेलीच आहे. ती समोर ठेवा म्हणजे तुम्हाला ते क्वेश्चन्स पाहता येतील. प्रत्येक क्वेश्चन मी रीड करणारच आहे आणि त्याचं करेक्ट आन्सर सांगणारच आहे. ओके, सो विल स्टार्ट. The questions are based on transport of gases. The question number is 159. Oxygen carried by blood is liberated in. Alternatives given are arteries, capillaries of body, capillaries of lungs, and heart. Remember, now you are well known. At alveolus level, there is a network of pulmonary arteriole and pulmonary venule present, and at that place, actual gaseous exchange takes place in between alveolus and blood. So, the correct answer is capillaries of body. Okay? So, oxygen carried by blood here is actually sent to tissue level, and tissue level is also bounded by capillary network, and in between the spaces, intercellular spaces, this oxygen is released from capillaries, and hence the answer is capillary of body. Next question is, for proper transport of oxygen and CO2, blood should be. The alternatives are given: slightly acidic, strongly alkaline, slightly alkaline. And you know very well, the human blood is slightly alkaline, having pH 7.4. Blood having pH 7.4, right? So, the correct answer is slightly alkaline. Next question 161. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are transported in blood through. Now you are clarified. Platelets and corpuscles, RBCs and WBCs, WBCs and serum, and RBCs and plasma. So we are gone thoroughly through the transport of oxygen and transport of CO2, and now you are clarified. Always the transport of these two gases occurs through RBCs and plasma, right? So correct answer is RBCs and plasma. Next question. Total oxygen that can be carried by blood is. So remember, we have studied the lung volumes, and depending upon that, the question is, and the correct answer is 1000 to 1200 ml. Clear? So that is the value of residual volume. Now, in the process of transport of CO2, which phenomenon occurs between RBC and plasma? Osmosis, adsorption, chloride shift, and absorption. and you are clear cut about chloride shift. Chloride shift. What is mean by chloride shift? You are clarified. During respiration or during transport of these gases, there is a formation of bicarbonates. These bicarbonates dissociates into carbonic acid and H ions. These H ions start moving out inside the plasma. So there is ionic imbalance occur inside the RBC. So to make ionic balance inside and outside of RBC, these chlorine ions shift inside RBC. That is called as chloride shift. So correct answer is chloride shift. CO2 is transported as dissolved in blood plasma, as carbonic acid, in carb amino hemoglobin, as carb amino hemoglobin and carbonic acid. Now remember, the CO2 transports occurs by three ways, right? By plasma, then you know very well that these three steps. So most of given here, they are as carb amino hemoglobin and carbonic acid. That will be the correct answer. Remainings are not correct because they are only single. Only carbonic acid is not the correct answer. It should be added with carb amino hemoglobin. Okay. Then 165. Carbonate ion is produced inside. Alternatives: lymphocytes, erythrocytes, neutrophil and basophil. The correct answer is erythrocyte or RBC. You know very well, RBC contains carbonic anhydrase enzyme. Carbonic anhydrase enzyme, and with the help of this carbonic anhydrase, there is a formation of bicarbonates occur inside the RBC. Right? So bicarbonate ions are produced by erythrocyte. Then maximum amount of 70 to 75% of carbon dioxide transport occur as. Now you are familiar with that transport, 7%, then 70% and 23%. 7% through plasma, 70% as bicarbonates and 23% through RBC. Right? So maximum percentage is 70 and that is in the form of bicarbonate. And that's why the correct answer is bicarbonate. Clear? The next, (167). Bicarbonate formed inside erythrocyte passes out into plasma, while chloride of plasma passes into erythrocyte. This phenomenon is called as, just we have studied, chloride shift. This chloride shift was described by one scientist, Hamburger phenomenon. So this chloride shift is also known as Hamburger phenomenon, and that's why in our 167 question the correct alternative is Hamburger phenomenon. Okay. The next, carbon dioxide entering erythrocyte react with water to form carbonic acid. The enzyme is, and just I have told you about this enzyme, carbonic anhydrase. This is present only in RBC. So correct answer is carbonic anhydrase. Next, maximum amount of CO2 which originate in cellular respiration transport by blood in lung. Maximum amount of CO2 in cellular respiration, remember, in combination with hemoglobin in the form of free CO2, in the form of bicarbonate acids or of H2CO3, and in the form of bicarbonate ions. Now here, during cellular respiration, the correct answer is in the form of bicarbonate ions. So during cellular respiration, the oxidation occurs, phosphorylation occurs, and actually this cellular respiration is the last step of mechanism of respiration. So correct answer is in the form of bicarbonate ions. Next, 170. Chloride shift is required for transport of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide and oxygen. So chloride shift is mostly important in carbon dioxide or transport of CO2. Transport of CO2. So this occurs for transport of CO2. Then blood does not transport oxygen in. Alternatives are given: cockroach, earthworm, frog tadpole and mammalian fetus. Now remember, earthworm, frog and mammals, all these they show closed circulation. Earthworm is one of the exceptional, remember, because earthworm is invertebrate belonging to phylum Annelida, even though earthworm shows closed type of circulation. Right? So all these remaining three, they are coming under closed circulation. Only cockroach belongs to phylum Arthropoda, that means invertebrate. And in invertebrate, especially this cockroach possesses tracheal respiratory system, and into which here the hemocoel contains hemolymph fluid, and through that hemolymph the oxygen is transported and not through the blood. And that's why the correct answer is blood. The correct answer is cockroach. Okay. Next, the blood coming out of lungs than entering into lung is richer in. Blood coming out of lungs than entering into lung is richer in carbon dioxide, oxygen, both A and B, and none of these. So it's a very simple: oxygen, because the blood which is coming out of lung, that means transporting blood from lungs to tissue. So you know very well the partial pressure of O2, PpO2 is 104, and inside the blood it is 40 mm of Hg. So blood will bind oxygen molecule with hemoglobin and transport to tissue level. So it is rich in oxygen. What would happen if human blood becomes acidic, low pH? We have studied the oxygen dissociation curve, right? And under which we have studied what happens when blood pH is low, when it is normal, and when it is higher. So that depends upon the concentration of CO2, remember. So oxygen carrying capacity of hemoglobin increase, oxygen carrying capacity of hemoglobin decrease, RBC count increase, RBC count decrease. The remaining two are not concerned with our question. Only above, oxygen carrying capacity of hemoglobin increase or decrease. Out of that two we have to select. And now you are familiar, the low pH, at low pH, the affinity of hemoglobin decreases to bind oxygen. Hence, the correct answer is oxygen carrying capacity of hemoglobin decreases. Clear? The next is oxygen is transported in vertebrates as dissolved in plasma, dissolved in cytoplasm of erythrocyte, complexed with hemoglobin, absorbed over the RBC. So it is a very simple question. It forms complex with hemoglobin. That is oxyhemoglobin complex is formed. So that is the correct answer. The next, oxygen carrying capacity of blood is 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. Now oxygen carrying capacity of blood is about 20%. Remember. Percentage of oxygen supplied by hemoglobin is, and that is, now you know very well, 3% and 97%. 3% through plasma and 97 through RBC as oxyhemoglobin molecule. So 97% is the correct answer. Determination of oxygen carried by hemoglobin is done by pH, partial pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of carbon dioxide, and all the above. So now you are clarified with partial pressures. So determination of oxygen carried by hemoglobin totally depends upon the PpO2. That is partial pressure of oxygen. So that is the correct answer. The next assertion is given. Hemoglobin is an oxygen carrier. Reason is given. Oxygen bind as oxygen -2 to Fe of hemoglobin. Both A and R are true. R is correct explanation of A. Both A and R are true. R is not correct explanation of A. A is true but R is false. Both A and R are false. Here, a hemoglobin is an oxygen carrier. That sentence is true. Second sentence, reason, oxygen binds oxygen -2 to Fe of hemoglobin. That sentence is false. Clear? Because there is no -2 present on oxygen molecule. So A is true but R is false. Then 180. During transport of CO2, blood does not become acidic due to. The correct answer is blood buffers, because hemoglobin act as, oxyhemoglobin especially act as buffer, brings about buffering action and do not change the pH of blood, and it is constantly maintained 7.4. Clear? Next is during transport of CO2, next, oxygenated blood from lung is carried to the heart by, and that is through pulmonary vein. That is one of the exception. Even though it is a vein, it carries oxygenated blood from lungs to heart. Carbon dioxide is transported from tissues to respiratory surface by only plasma and erythrocytes, then erythrocytes and leukocytes. Clear? So remember, carbon dioxide is transported from tissue to respiratory surface. That is through plasma and erythrocyte both to some percentage. Now you are clarified. Then concentration of carbonic acid does not increase in the blood due to presence of now you are well known, due to presence of specific sodium ions and potassium ions that are present in the plasma. So the concentration of this carbonic acid inside the RBC cytoplasm does not increase due to the sodium ions. Then higher concentration of CO2 or higher CO2 concentration of blood causes, that is quick diffusion of oxygen from the blood. If blood is quickly diffused from blood to tissue, ultimately the CO2 concentration increase. The compound soluble in water which do not impede oxygen transportation is, and that compound is SO2. Then hypercapnia means excess of dash in fluid. Now remember, this word is new to you, and that is the excess of carbon dioxide. When carbon dioxide increases in body fluid, which is unable to remove from the body tissue, that condition is known as hypercapnia. Next, which of the following shows maximum solubility in blood? And that is carbon dioxide. Which one of these blood absorb oxygen in respiration? And ultimately the RBC, erythrocyte. Carbonic anhydrase is found in, again the same question, erythrocyte or RBC. Which fact suggests that most oxygen is transported from lungs to tissues combined with hemoglobin rather than dissolved in plasma? Now read question carefully and then answer. The answer is oxygen carrying capacity of whole blood is much higher than of plasma, and oxygen content of blood leaving lung is greater than that of blood entering lungs. That is the correct answer. Then amount of oxygen absorbed by 1 gram of hemoglobin is. Now this is one more additional information to you. The amount of oxygen absorbed by, the amount of oxygen absorbed by 1 gram of hemoglobin, and that will be 1.34 ml. 1.34 ml. Remember this figure. 1.34 ml. A molecule of hemoglobin carries oxygen molecule, and that is 4. You know very well, this is hemoglobin, has 4 binding sites and carry 4 oxygen molecule. So 1:4. One hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 oxygen molecules. Then hemoglobin is a respiratory pigment. No, you know very well. The metal associated with hemoglobin is iron. Haldane believes oxyhemoglobin to act as acid because it acts as a buffering action. Body tissue obtain oxygen from hemoglobin because its dissociation in tissue caused by low oxygen concentration. Because at tissue level, the PPO2 decreases. At lung level, PPO2 is 104 mm of Hg, but at tissue level it declines up to 30 mm of Hg, and due to which there is a dissociation occur. Hence, there is a low oxygen concentration. Then, oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve will shift to right on decrease of pH. लेफ्ट साइड इन्क्रीज आणि राईट साइड इन्क्रीज आपण स्टडी केला तर राईट साइड डिक्रीज जो आहे तो दॅट इज डिक्रीज ऑफ पीएच आणि लेफ्ट साइड जो आहे तो इन्क्रीज ऑफ पीएच आहे. Hamburger phenomenon is also known as chloride shift. Just we have studied chloride shift. The next, the question is repeated again. Oxygen dissociation curve of hemoglobin is sigmoid in this way. Very well. Suppose that this shape is known as sigmoid shape. Sigmoid curve. Sigmoid curve. So sigmoid shape. Dissociation curve is concerned with oxyhemoglobin. Which of the following gases makes the most suitable or stable combination with hemoglobin of RBC? And that is carbon monoxide. Remember, carbon monoxide has greater affinity to bind hemoglobin, or hemoglobin has vice versa, greater affinity to bind carbon monoxide rather than the oxygen, and hence there is one disorder occur known as carbon monoxide poisoning. Clear? The next, the percentage of hemoglobin saturated with oxygen will increase if, and that is the correct answer is the arterial partial pressure is increased. Then carbon monoxide combines with hemoglobin to form carboxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin has least affinity for carbon dioxide and greater affinity for hemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin is an unstable compound because there is a chemical bonding between oxygen and hemoglobin. Which form of iron is found in hemoglobin? And that is Fe++. Remember. Which of the following increase the oxygen affinity of hemoglobin? High body temperature, low partial pressure of CO2, high blood pH, and both B and C. High body temperature and high blood pH causes the increased oxygen affinity of hemoglobin. So correct answer is both B and C. Then vanadium occurs in annelids, insects, urochords and echinoderms. Now what is meant by vanadium? Actually urochords, it is a phylum, subphylum and present under phylum Chordata, which includes tunicates. For example, sea potato or herdmania. This herdmania animal is living in sea water. So specifically in urochordates, the respiration occurs through this vanadium, a very specific part of respiratory system or respiration. That's why the correct answer is urochordata. So vanadium is a respiratory organ present in urochordata. What is the percentage of hemoglobin in RBC? And that is 28%. Myoglobin is found in muscles. Myo means muscles. Two respiratory pigments have been shown to occur together in blood of certain and that is annelids. In case of annelids, 2 respiratory pigments found. During one circuit of blood from lungs to tissue and back through the circulatory system, the percentage of hemoglobin giving the oxygen is, and that is 25%. It declines to 25% from 28 to 25. Oxygen dissociation curve of myoglobin is, myoglobinची hyperbolic आहे. This one is sigmoid, but myoglobin मोलेक्युलची जी आहे मसल्समध्ये असलेल्या हेमोग्लोबिनची ती मात्र सिग्मॉइड नाही आहे, ती हायपरबोलिक आहे. Dissociation curve shift to right when CO2 concentration increases and pH also increases. Then at higher CO2 concentration, oxygen dissociation curve of hemoglobin will be, again same question, move to right. Which one is the present in arthropods? Hemoglobin, chlorophyll, hemocyanin, myoglobin. Hemocyanin. This is one of the respiratory pigment present in cockroach. Then ratio of hemoglobin and oxyhemoglobin and hemoglobin in blood is based upon, and that is carbon dioxide tension. Vanadium containing blood pigment is noticed among the acidians. So remember vanadium is one of the respiratory pigment present in respiratory system of urochordates or acidians. Then pinoglobin is Mn containing respiratory pigment. That means manganese containing respiratory pigment. So remember vanadium, pinoglobin, myoglobin, these are the new words than our syllabus. So remember that carefully and